our guest.
Then I'm unable to access Facebook. Let me see. What is happening this Monday morning? Live on Facebook. Okay, James, we are on.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talks early morning show. It's Monday morning, and every day we rise is a great day to be alive. And welcome to the Seven Cities Forums of Hampton Roads presents Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And we're here. I'm here. My name is James Overton. I'm here with co-host Leah Drake-Stitt, and Thomas the Colonel Chapman is not here today. He's out of town, but we'll try to continue without him this morning. We miss whenever we miss one of our three ingredients, we miss it.
Yes,
But
we do.
we will continue. And had problems getting in touch with the radio station. That's usually the Colonel's job. But they didn't pick up, so we're going to continue, and we're also waiting on our guest. Our guest this morning is Reverend Milton Blunt, and he's the pastor of Mount Olive Baptist Church in City of Portsmouth, and also the president of the Martin Luther King Leadership Steering Committee. And we want to have him on this morning to talk about sort of like post conversation of the elections, last week's election, and coming from the perspective of the Martin Luther King Steering Committee. So we're waiting for him to log on. So I just brought Leah. I guess we can talk a little bit about the elections and the results. The results, I guess, and plus it was a good article in the Virginia Pilot yesterday about the Martin Luther King Steering Committee and what they stand for and everything. But we wanted to have the president to come on so we could, the people that didn't see that article, and clear up some things about the steering committee and what their purpose is and everything like that. But when he comes on, we'll talk more about that. But Leah, how do you feel about
Well, before we do
of the election?
Okay, well, before we do that, James,
Sure.
let's salute our veterans. We didn't get a chance to salute those who served in the military and those who continue to serve. We want to say thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for your service. And we're thankful that you're doing all that you can do to keep us free and safe here in the United States of America. So this morning, we salute each and every one of our veterans, as well as those who are serving at this time.
Yes, especially our own.
Yes.
Our own colonel.
Our own colonel. That's right.
36 years, I believe, he served in the Army and worked his way up from to colonel before he retired. And we've heard his story, but we really appreciate having him here and his perspective and the time he served. But yes, indeed, we appreciate all the ones that have served or continue to serve now. It's important, especially in this area of Hampton Roads, where there's a big military presence here, and a lot of people come here from other areas and to serve. So we appreciate everything that they do and the sacrifices they make, as far as their families, and in some cases their lives. So we appreciate that.
And James, Milton Blunt is coming on now.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll wait for Pastor Blunt to come on.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Pastor.
Good morning, Pastor Blunt.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well
Thanks.
this morning.
Thank
How
you,
you
sir,
guys doing today?
Yes, we're
great,
doing
thank
great
you.
so far. You know, it's just like it's early for us, just like it's early for you. But
No, that's right.
but this is what we've been doing here on our Monday morning shows, and we appreciate you getting up early and coming in and talking to us. And we were mentioning about we want to what a great article it was in the Virginia Pilot yesterday that gave you an opportunity to talk about the Steering Committee, the Martin Luther King Leadership Steering Committee. And by the way, those listening, this is Reverend Milton Blunt. He's a pastor of Mount Olive Baptist Church in the city of Portsmouth, as well as the president of the Martin Luther King Leadership Steering Committee. And we wanted to bring him on, especially, well, we didn't know about the article, but we wanted to bring him on to talk about sort of post-election conversation with the time he has, and especially with the Martin Luther King Steering Committee. The people that don't know, a lot of people think that they expect or think or expect a lot out of the Martin Luther King Leadership Steering Committee, which is a PAC. And certain things that they expect out of there, you know, it should come from maybe the NAACP or other, but the PAC is a political action committee.
Yes.
And their main purpose is, well, I'll let Pastor Blunt explain their role as a PAC in the city of Portsmouth.
Well, first of all, let me just say thank you for allowing me to share this moment with you, being a part of what Portsmouth Coffee Talk.
Yes.
And certainly, because I don't have any coffee here, but I guess we can still have the talk here.
For you.
But certainly, I'm delighted to be a part of this time of sharing with you. And thank you for the opportunity to reflect upon this last election and this post-election conversation that we're having this morning. And certainly Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Steering Committee is, as you stated, a political action committee. And our purpose has been to help guide the citizens of Portsmouth in making its decision concerning who they will support or elect to represent them in local government. And so in keeping with that, we have a group of outstanding citizens that participate on a regular basis. We come together, we engage in conversation, we talk about the issues of the city, what's affecting our community, how we can do our part to make the city a better city. And so when you look at Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Steering Committee, that is what the committee is all about, creating a stronger, better, more unified Portsmouth. That has been our objective from the very inception of the organization. Of course, it was started years and years and years ago. We've had some ups and some downs, but by grace, we continue to exist and continue to do what we feel like we have a mandate to do.
You know, Reverend Blunt, Pastor Blunt, for people who have been members in the past, like myself and present members, it's kind of hard sometimes to see the comments and treatments sometimes the steering committee gets from people. And it's kind of funny to me. A lot of it comes from people that have not been, especially candidates who have not been chosen, even though they seek the endorsement. And you don't see that if they don't get the endorsement from the firefighters or other groups, you don't see them attacking that group because they didn't. But you see that with the steering committee. And sometimes I look at it as sour grapes, but it's obvious that of the importance of that endorsement coming from the Martin Luther King Steering Committee. And so dispel some of the, you know, it's always you get conversations or comments about we you know, try to force people to do the will of Martin Luther King Steering Committee, which actually is just suggesting that these are people that you should take a look at because the committee has vetted those people. And it's not like you're trying to force them to do this, and it's all about fairness. And it could be a white candidate, it could be a black. Uh, Although we would like to see black candidates, because in the past it hadn't always been fair. But when it comes down to it, we're looking for people that's going to serve the best interests of the city of Portsmouth, black and white. So talk a little bit about that and how the committee feels about the attacks that they get sometime for just doing what they think is right.
Well, I think that a few points here to be made. One is, and of course, you know, people who are endorsed by Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Steering Committee, when they receive the endorsement and the support that goes along with it, then of course, Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Steering Committee is the greatest committee in the region. When persons do not receive the endorsement, then of course, we're the worst group, committee, or organization in the region. When there have been persons who have been endorsed during one cycle of elections, and perhaps the next cycle they were not endorsed by the organization. And all of a sudden we became this evil group that was trying to place its thumb upon the scales of elections and determine who gets elected, who doesn't get elected, and that kind of thing, which is not the case. Again, and I do emphasize the fact that we are made up of citizens, leaders, religious leaders, civic leaders, everyday go to work citizens here in the city of Portsmouth. And we give opportunity for each member of our organization to meet on a monthly basis to discuss issues, to discuss concerns. I think the thing that makes us different from perhaps other organizations and other PACs, groups that endorse candidates, is that we're so close. We're so family, if you will. And so we talk very freely in terms of our thoughts, our ideals, our concerns, our issues. And so when things don't quite work out the way perhaps one member of the family expected it to work out, then, you know, we voice our opinion about that matter, and the situation not working out the way we wanted it to work out. And so that's why you perhaps hear so much negative conversation from time and again concerning MLK. Primarily, they're again from people that I call the power players, persons who are either aspiring to serve in office, or persons who are serving in office, or persons who have served in office and now are no longer serving. MLK Junior Leadership Steering Committee becomes the point of reference in terms of what needs to happen. And the other thing is the perception that we have this tremendous influence to determine the outcomes of elections. Well, what we have is a voice, and what we seek to do is to use that voice to be impactful in the city. And an endorsement is merely an opinion about who we think would best represent our city. While others may have that same level of availability or that same level of response in terms of who we think will represent the city, and they exercise their voice as well. The other piece with Martin Luther King, and I think that people tend to forget this, because although our population in the city of Portsmouth, ever since I can remember, has been a balance in terms of Blacks and whites in the city, 48% Black, 52% white, 52% Black, 48% white. It has gone back and forth. But there was a time when we had no representation in terms of governmental leadership in the city of Portsmouth, at least at a level that represented the population of Portsmouth. A time when you had no Black people in management positions in the city of Portsmouth. I think the only leader I think you had, Dr. James Holly, Dr. Owens, Mr. Turner, persons like that. But every now and then one or maybe two Black leaders who were in positions, or people who were appointed, because at one point, the school board was an appointed position. And so persons who were in the know tend to have gotten the nod, but you really didn't have a level of leadership that reflected the population of Portsmouth. And for that, it was for that cause, And that reason that MLK Leadership Steering Committee was formed. And that effort was led by Pastor Fleming, Joe B. Fleming, and Senator Lucas, and a few other persons who stepped up and says, we need to create something here so that we can have a forum, if you will, or an organization that focuses in on getting Black people elected.
And Leah,
so go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Well, go ahead. Finish your thoughts, sir.
And so, from that point on, MLK Junior Leadership Steering Committee has been very, very active. There have been moments when we kind of fell by the wayside, but then we would be revived and do what we had really been mandated to do. And so I think that people tend to forget that. If there's any disappointment concerning the present structure or present leadership, especially on the council, is the fact that, when you forget your history, then you fail to be responsive to the people that you're called to serve. We've not always had the privileges that we have now. And when you take advantage of those privileges to the point that you forget to talk to people, you forget that the people have placed you in position, you forget to acknowledge the fact that we collaborate in our efforts to achieve things and get things done. Not that any one group or not the MLK Junior Leadership Steering Committee want to dictate to leadership in terms of what to do and what the agenda ought to be, because we have no agenda other than to assist and to be impactful in our community as it relates to making choices about who should serve and lead this city. And so when we look at the work of Martin Luther King, yes, we are kind of singled out a little bit to be picked on, if you will, but that's okay, because we spend very little time talking about who's picking on us. And most of our conversation is about how we can be impactful and helping people to pick the right people to serve and represent this city.
And Leah, let me make this other point. And what people have to realize too, Pastor Blunt, is that along with that endorsement comes with being accountable to those people that are endorsed. I wanted to say this about the people that might bring up the argument about separation of church and state, and mentioning that it's a lot of pastors that are members of MLK Junior Leadership Steering Committee. And I think it's just as many non-pastors that are members of the group. But go back, and you mentioned a little while ago about history. To go back to the history, go back to the 60s of the first, fight for equality. It was led by ministers. And the reason for that was ministers had influence over a lot of people that trusted and believed in them. And you have the same thing going on here. So using that argument about separation of church and state, and ministers and churches should stay out of our political realm is ludicrous to me.
It is.
How do you feel about that? And I know you hear that a lot, and people threatening your nonprofit, non-taxable status and things like that to scare you away from being involved with how do you feel about it?
Well, I don't hear it as much as I used to hear it, but I think that it is still a point of conversation for some people concerning the role of pastors, spiritual leaders in politics. And but at the end of the day, it really does come down to the shaping of our community.
Exactly.
How do we create a better community, equitable community, where all people are treated equally? There are issues in our city, there are issues in every city that have to be addressed, not only by the pastors, but by civic leaders, by political leaders, by everyday go to work men and women of our community. And so at the end of the day, if it takes the pastor in order to galvanize or motivate or push people to come together and to unify themselves in an effort to make a better city, then that's what we need to do. And historically, when you look back over our history as a people, the role of the pastor has been very, very important for change that has taken place in this city or in this nation or even this world. And so again, I don't hear that conversation as much as I used to hear it, but there are people who still discuss it, talk about it. And of course, if you look at this recent political cycle or this election cycle that we've been in, not only in terms of locally, but nationally, there's been a lot of conversation about pastors involved in politics from another perspective in terms of the evangelical community,
That's right.
white
That's right.
evangelical community, and their involvement and their endorsement of President Trump. And so the conversation is an ongoing conversation. There again, I think that people from our perspective have reached a point where they've learned to appreciate and accept the fact that pastors, spiritual leaders have to be involved and are there to help motivate all of us and encourage us to do what we need to do in terms of building and shaping our community and making sure people are treated fairly.
And Pastor Blunt, and I think at this time, we should note as well that any person who's seeking an elected position in Portsmouth has the opportunity to come and share with the MLK group what they bring to the table. And then after you vet those individuals, then you make a decision as to who the more viable candidates are. Am I not correct?
That's normally the protocol. We have a vetting committee that makes a recommendation to the executive committee. We discuss that, then we bring it before the greater body. The greater body looks at it, discuss it, and many times a person want to throw other names into the hat or what have you. But our protocol has been where we extend an invitation to candidates, persons who are running, to invite them to a time of vetting where we sit down and ask them a series of questions. And of course, the other issue for us, even with vetting people, is that when persons receive endorsements, they are elected, then sometimes they change their minds in terms of the path or the direction that we need to proceed in. And it's okay to change your mind, but I think the other piece is there should be some conversation, that there should be some community conversation. There should be some openness in terms of the community. I think that we tend to get the taste. There's something about the taste of power. Once we get the power, once we get that position, we tend to forget where the power comes from. And power, comes from what it flows up, not down. And so the community empowers you to serve the community. But then when there are issues that are divisive, that would cause us not to be a unified city, then we have to find a way to talk about those things. And even if we have to say, well, this is the path that we have chosen for this reason. I don't have to agree, but I can respect you for the fact that you did talk about it. And so even with the vetting that we do, sometimes people tend to want to go in another direction. And then of course, when a person that has received an endorsement, been supported and says, well, y'all do what you want to do, then that says that there's no real regard for the people. And the last thing I'll say is this here, because I think that one of the things that make MLK Junior Leadership Steering Committee different from perhaps other organizations that do what we do is we don't just endorse, but it's what's behind the endorsement. We support and we use our time, our energy, our resources to help support that candidate. And it's not like we receive a whole lot of money, political action monies or what have you from different groups. But we go into our pockets and we make sure that we put our resources behind the persons that we are endorsing. In the past, in some cases, we have been able to do more for some than for others. But at the end of the day, it's not just our voice, but it's also our actions that go along with that. And we have a group of outstanding citizens that work with MLK Junior Leadership Steering Committee, and they work tirelessly to make sure that the outcome hopefully is the desired outcome. We've endorsed people in the past. Some have gotten elected, some have not. But at the end of the day, we are involved, and we think it's important for us to be involved. You know, if you're a leader in the city, if you are a business owner in the city, if you're a citizen, a resident of the city, no matter what the case is, we have this love for the city, and we want to have a strong city, a city that is able to come together and accomplish great things that affects not only the city directly, but the region, the state, the nation, and the world. So what we do in Portsmouth has global effects.
It does. And you know, and not only are you concerned with getting individuals elected, but you're also concerned about monitoring those individuals once they are elected to make sure that they're doing the will of the citizens and not self-will.
Right.
And so you want to share a little bit on that, please?
That's interesting because we're just recently having that conversation, and going back to that moment in time when we would sit down with persons who were elected on a quarterly basis, and sometimes those persons we would sit down and chat with were not necessarily people that we endorse, but now that they're in office, it's in our best interest that they bring their best to the table, that they do the best job that they can do. And of course, all along the way, we want to encourage. And I think that people get it confused sometimes because it's never a question of dictating, but it's always a question of encouraging. And so what can we do to help you as mayor, or help you as city council member, or help you as city manager, or whatever the case might be? And so we try to create opportunities, not just through Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Steering Committee, but even with church and community in action, because the two groups are kind of interrelated to some regards, although one does not endorse, but one creates a forum whereby people can come together weekly and talk about what's happening, talk about the issues in our city, talk about what PRHA is doing, or what behavioral health care is doing, or that kind of thing, or have a direct conversation with the city manager. You know, these are things that we do on an ongoing basis. And so even with persons that we endorse, we try to create opportunities where we can come in and sit down and chat. And if you don't, you know, if you feel, well, you know, certain things you cannot divulge because of confidentiality and it has not been released yet. So we understand that, but just in terms of a general conversation, you know, where we've had council members, mayor or vice mayor, whoever they were in the past, that would come in and say, listen, we need more African American representation at the city council meeting. We need African Americans to come down and voice their concerns and give some input about this or that. You know, we're hearing from the other side of the community, but not from this side of the community.
Right.
So then a group like MLK, through CCIA and through other groups, to kind of get the word out. Listen, we need to start showing up for city council meetings. We need to start showing up and going to the lectern and having something to say about, you know, what's happening with this issue or that issue in the city. But it gives that kind of opportunity to the community, and it empowers the community. So we empower you, then you therefore have to turn around and empower us so that we come and we're able to share and we're able to help guide the agenda, whether it's related to school board issues or city ongoing issues. We're able to kind of help bring some input to bear to help guide those issues and guide you in terms of the agenda that as city council you're sitting, or as school board you're sitting, that will ultimately have an effect upon all of us.
Pastor Blunt, I know you have time constraints of about 30 minutes, but I want to, before you go, I want to ask you about this. I know one of the goals of the committee was to prepare future candidates that might be seeking office. And I don't know if that's still something that you do, but I know I've seen people come through the steering committee, and if it's not an official class or something like that, but just being in the presence of the people that are in members of the committee who have seen a lot of elections, who have been elected before, has been beneficial to those people. We've seen some people. I mentioned Vernon Tillage. I remember him coming in as a very young person and just observing and being a part of that. And you can see how polished he is. And it's been others that have come through. is this something that you all still is one of the goals of MLK, the committee, to prepare future candidates and let them have their independent thinking, creative thinking, but not just be like people think, mold into MLK's image and without having their own agendas and things like that, but just preparing them for office.
Right. Without question, fact of the matter is all of us, we have a responsibility, and that responsibility is to pass the torch on. Mm-hmm. And therefore you have to create next level on and next generation leadership. We have something that we've created, and we're still working on it and trying to get it really moving in the direction that we desire for it to move in, and that is the MLK Junior Leadership Steering Committee Academy. That bring young people through, introduce them to the government, city government, very similar to the LEFCO group, but from our perspective as African Americans, in creating a bench, if you will, of ready to go leaders when that time comes, persons who are able to fall into line and who are able to serve with the support of the community, of course. And so we have, that's been an ongoing objective of the group for years, and it still is. Young persons coming in, younger people coming in, and shaping and guiding and preparing them for that level of leadership that's going to be needed in the city. Not everybody will become a city council member. Not everybody will become a school board member, but perhaps a large number of us can become members of commissions and boards, and potentially become department heads and directing the city and bringing our skills to bear that will help make this the strongest city in the region. And keep in mind, Portsmouth has a lot going on. We talk about oftentimes, people talk about the crime and the negative things in the city, but there are a lot of positive things going on in the city of Portsmouth. And we need to have people that can be plugged in, that can not just take advantage of the positive things, but also shape these positive things that are happening in the city for the benefit of the masses, of the large community. And when we do that, you can't help but build a strong city and have the strongest city in the region.
And that Leadership Academy, as Patsy Hines just says, that's an awesome idea. And I know that I was there, and I know that y'all kind of tasked Carl Edmonds and I to get some things going. And I think it's really something that we need. And unfortunately, we have a group of young people who sometimes feel as though they have all the answers. Right. They don't want to receive the guidance of the elders. And that's something that we didn't experience in the past. I remember Lucy Overton when she mentored me, and you had to sit in Lucy Overton's seat, and she would sit down and she would talk to you about what the needs of the city was and what her expectations were for you as a person who was seeking leadership. Now, if we can get that Leadership Academy going, it would be a great thing if we get a group of young people who are willing to come in to sit at the feet of the elders. Young people don't like that anymore. I don't understand the rationale why. They come in feeling as though I've learned this, I have this, I know which direction to go in. But sometimes you got to be a little humble in how you move into an arena. So I'm hoping that we were able to get that Leadership Academy going and get some good quality young people to come in and learn the process and be prepared to enter into the process. So I just threw that out there to you, right, Pastor.
And I think that's a good point. And I think we have to find a way to pull them back in.
Yes.
And to reestablish within them the importance of the sage,
yes,
listening and sitting under the feet of the elders, because that's where their strength lies.
Exactly.
And we have to, and I'm thinking about, people like, I think that Ms. Overton mentioned Vernon Tillage earlier, the Melvin Cottons.
Yes.
The Yolanda Thomases. There's a whole group of young people who are active in terms of career building, and they're looking for other opportunities to serve. because they have been recipients
Mhm.
of the energy and of the wisdom and insight of people who have come before them.
Mhm.
Because like I tell people all the time, we are standing on the shoulders of those who have come before us. And so
Exactly.
we have a responsibility to give back. And my
Mhm.
mother would always say, listen, you can lead a horse to water,
You
but you
can't make
can't
it
make
drink.
the horse drink.
That's right.
We got to find a way to try to make the horse drink, to understand the importance of drinking from this source,
Mhm.
because then when you drink, you're blessed, but
Mhm.
then you become a blessing to the masses, to the greater community. And so I think we have to find a way to kind of pull young people in, and perhaps if it's only 1 out of 8, that we're able to pull in effect, that will go a long ways in terms of affecting this region, this city, this region, this state, nation, and world.
And prayerfully, that will bridge that schism that's between
Right.
the younger generation and the older generation. We got to find a way to bridge that gap,
Right.
and hopefully through a program such as the Leadership Academy, we will be able to at least get a start going there.
Right. And I think it comes down to trust,
It does. It does.
they've got to trust us, and we've got to trust them.
Exactly.
And understand that while we ultimately make our choices and decisions in terms of the path we choose, there are some paths that we've already traveled,
Mhm.
and they don't have to go back down that path. They can, because we've gone that direction and created hopefully an opportunity for them to enjoy greater and better.
Mhm.
And I think that when we trust each other, then it opens the door in terms of bringing some things to the table. But there again, we got to, and that whole trust piece means that we have to listen, and we have to follow some directions and instructions, and we got to understand that though we live in a different world,
Mhm.
we are still expected to bring better and bring more and bring greater to the table.
Exactly.
My mother would say to us, listen, you got to understand that it takes more for you.
Mhm.
And I could never understand, you need more education.
Mhm.
You need them, it takes more, because what it takes for them to get to where they need to be is a little bit less than what it would take for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so I think that that kind of insight helps kind of shape a generation of leadership that
Mhm.
understands that I got to bring my best game. I can't come here,
Mhm.
in the words of old schoolers, shucking and jiving.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
got to have my best game in order to achieve next level stuff. So
Mhm.
Pastor Blunt, I know you said 30 minutes, so you let us know. But if you're at the point where you have to leave, let you give have the last words about your appearance here, and sort of guide it towards, we see what's happening nationally, and we need to pay attention to that. But how important, so important it is to be more involved locally, with groups like MLK, or whoever you choose as a pact or organization. Just be involved. How important it is to be involved locally, because it directly affects you.
well, thank you very much. And I do have to leave, but I appreciate the opportunity again to have been a part of the Portsmouth Coffee Talk. Um, you know, it all comes down to the local, to what happens in that community, that
Exactly.
neighborhood, that city, that county, because it affects what happens in the state, what happens nationally. And it's about consciousness, being aware of what's happening around you, but also being aware of the fact that each one of us have within us what is needed in order to change
Mhm.
the world.
Mhm.
And we change that part of the world that we have influence over, that within our own sphere of influence, within our own environment, our own space, we begin to bring change there.
Mhm.
And it's a domino effect. What happens here, then it happens next door, then it happens next door, and it's ongoing. And so I think that people do themselves an injustice when they minimize who they are and what they are empowered to do.
Mhm.
Uh, if not Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Steering Committee, then NAACP,
Exactly.
Church and Community in Action,
Mhm.
Urban League, Second Chance programs. Find something to work with and some group to work with, to collaborate with, and to bring your talents, your abilities, your skill set. We don't have to have gangs in the streets because we got too many positive organizations around where you can bring your talent, bring your abilities, bring your strength, and engage what you have for purposes of building and not for purposes of tearing down.
Exactly.
And what we see through gangs with guns and what's happening in terms of the criminal element of our community, that's destructive, that tears down. We got to focus on building up. And when we focus on building up, then we create something for the next generation. You know, the Bible talks about your children's children's children. Those generations that follows us will look back, and the legacy of building will be such that they will say that my great grandfather led this effort, and now I'm taking up the cause. You know, because we pass the torch on. We have to pass that torch on because we will not be here always, as we know. And so we have to prepare that next generation to lead. And so as Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Steering Committee does what it does, we do it with conscious thought that says we got to pass something on to our children. Let them know that they have the strength within them to accomplish whatever has to be done in order to make this city a great city, in order to make this state a great state, in order to make this nation a great nation, and in order to make this world a better world and a great world for all people to live in. And so that's our goal, that's our objective, is to convey that level of consciousness that says we can, in the words of President Obama, do it.
And Reverend Blunt, also, I would encourage the young people who are interested in being involved politically to come in, join the organization. Don't fight against the organization. Join the organization, come in and let your voice be heard, because your voice will be heard if you become a part of the organization. So come in, join the organization, let your voice be heard, and then you also will learn from those, once again, who have been here for some time, who've gone through the struggle. But you can come in and share your thoughts and ideas, and we can merge the thoughts of the elders with the thoughts of the young, and we can have great things happening in the city of Portsmouth.
I agree 100%.
And
thank you so very much for allowing me to share in these moments.
Well,
thanks again, Pastor Blunt, and
thank
hopefully we can have you back, and we want to use this platform into the new year to possibly have a round table with all those groups you mentioned, so we can keep the conversation going. So many times after the election, we sit down and say, okay, we did good, but it has to continue. Right after the election, we have to continue the conversation. But thanks again. We appreciate you getting up and being with us.
Thank you so very much
for coming on.
Have a great day.
You too. Look forward to next time.
Okay. Okay, James. Well, we have, I think we're in for some good times in the city of Portsmouth. It looks like we're on the move up, and no longer prayerfully will we be the laughing stock of the nation, or a time when people in other states are having popcorn as they watch the city council meetings. So prayerfully, we're moving up, and some great things are going to shape up and take place in the city of Portsmouth.
Yeah, I think so, Leah, and I think we also have to realize we still have some challenges to face. We still have to, like I just said with Pastor Blunt, we still have to keep the conversations going. We can't sit back on our laurels or our victories and say, okay, and oftentimes this happens. We kind of sit back, and then deep into the whatever a new council we have, we start seeing things happening, and then we start speaking up.
That's true.
But we ought to make our presence known from day one. The first day they sit down as council people, let them know that we are there and to support, but hold them accountable for what they said when they were running. You know, we have to remember that. We have to keep that in mind. If you have to write it down, write it down. If you have to go back to videos and look and see what they said and what they wanted to do, because it's some things. I think the last time we had so many things overshadowing what was going on, what was being voted on. You know, and things that were happening, because it might have been some good things that were voted on, but who knows? You know, what was getting the news was
All the
the
negative.
the dissension on council, the what we saw, what people saw that was sitting there or watching it from their home, and it overshadowed that something might have been passed that would help your neighborhood. And that's why I think some of the candidates that might not have been successful had problems when they were trying to talk about what they had done. But people, well, at that point, people were done. I mean, they had seen what they have seen, and they've seen the negative over the positive, and they were ready for a change. And that's probably what happened. But, you know, like I said earlier, we still have to hold the new people there accountable, and we have to stay on top of them as well, because, you know, things can happen the same way they happened before. Hopefully, prayerfully, like you said, that won't be the case. We can look at some new things happening, and we can see some of the things that we need addressed. We can see it up front happening without the drama.
And as you said, James, you have to monitor. You monitor now. You don't wait until they get deeply embedded into the city council before you start coming forth and voicing your opinion. Monitor now so you'll be prepared to address any issues that they bring up that may impact upon you and your family or your neighborhood, your community. It's important for you monitor and you use your voice. Use your voice early and use your voice continuously. As we watch and see in which direction the city council will go in. But I had a thought in mind, and James and
yeah, it'll come back in. I wanted to say too, you know, another thing we should watch out as citizens. You know, a lot of people that weren't successful, sometimes you see them come back later and run again. But keep your eyes on those people that weren't successful. Are they still involved?
exactly.
Are they still involved in the community? We saw, I'll say it, we saw Nathan Clark come back to run.
Yes. Well, he was gone. He was gone.
Yeah, but did we hear anything about what he was doing after he lost the last time?
Nothing.
Now, he might have been, but I didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
I don't know if he talked about what he was doing. Mostly he talked about what he was going to do if he got back on council. But what were you doing in between that time to
James,
want us to re-elect you?
Yeah.
You know, or did you just sit back and do nothing and then come back and say, I want to run? And I think the people answered that question.
And James, not only what did he do after he left council,
right?
We have to look at what did he do while he was on council.
Right.
So you have to look at people's voting records. How did they vote on issues that will make a major impact upon the city? You got to look at all of that. And not only that, James, I think we come to a time to where everybody has the right to run.
Right.
If you're eligible to run, you have the right to run. But when you got 11 people running for 3 seats, where the vote's going to go? You know, I mean, your chances are nil and void, and especially if you have not been working in the community, if you're not served on commissions and boards in the city, if you've not been actively involved in the city, and all of a sudden you decide you want to run. Now, everybody has a right to run. I don't take that from anybody, but you have to show something when you come to the table.
Yeah,
for an election.
The 3 people that won, it was like maybe a 4,000 to 5,000 votes difference between those top 3, and then everybody else fell in line, and it was a lot of people that fell into 4,000 votes. You had a present council person that got 6,000, and then, but that was still about 4,000 away from the or from the one of the 3 winners.
Vote getters, yes.
And then after that, you got all these votes split up, you know, between among a lot of people. So, and I agree like you. Everybody has the right to run, but sometimes you have to look at, especially when you start seeing all these people that are running, you have to look at, okay, what's going to be best for the city. So I don't want to discourage anybody from running when they feel like they really can. But sometimes you look at some of the people that might come from nowhere and haven't really, well, anyway, I'll just say anybody has the right to run. But, are you hurting or helping, the process when you run and you don't have anything that you've done in the community that people can look at and help vet you. Anybody, if I ran tomorrow, I'm going to get a certain amount of votes just because people know me.
Exactly.
But does that mean I should be on council? Not
No,
necessarily.
not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
However, you would have made a great Councilman James, I must say.
Maybe at some point, not now. But anyway, well, you saying that, Leah, I looked at it over the years like I could serve better in another capacity.
Exactly. You don't have to be on the council to serve.
Several times I said, should I run? And was a lot of other reasons that I decided not to run, but I looked at it, even being up there, some of the things I might not be able to say, I might have to, and I was already a civic league president and other things I was involved with, which I thought was kind of effective. I had the ear of council, so sometimes people have to realize there are other approaches you can take in order to help your community. It doesn't always have to be on council. Sometimes it could be more effective as a grassroots person or somebody that serves on a board or serves not necessarily civic league president, but being a part of the civic league.
Exactly.
And making that civic league strong enough to have a voice for the people that live in the area. So, you look at that, and just like Pastor Blunt said, sometimes people get elected and you have faith in them, and something about that power sort of changes their
that
direction.
Power is something else.
even if that's the case, be able to explain the reason for you changing directions or something like that. It might make sense, it might not make sense, at least we know. But to sit up there and say nothing, I'm voting this way, and the people that put you there said, I didn't think he would vote that way. So explain to us why you vote that way. And that doesn't always take place. And I think it's a disservice to the public if you don't explain why you change directions or why you feel this way, or you wait to a few months or a few weeks down the road to explain yourself. And by that time, people have already formed their own opinions.
And invite these council people to your civic league, to your neighborhood. And if they don't come, you hold them accountable for next time. Invite them, have them to explain to you what they're doing, why they're doing it. They work for you. You as a citizen, you must realize your city council works for you. You need to bring them in, talk to them, and let them share with you what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing, so that you will know, and you will know how to vote for them when the next election comes around. Because one thing about Portsmouth, I think we have an election every year, don't we?
Yes.
Every year we have an election.
Different from most localities. We have elections. Somebody's being elected every year.
Every year.
Or being on the ballot every year. And I think this is something that people should think about, and I always talk about how the council people are accessible, or they should be. And people always think about a big platform in order to talk to their councilman.
You don't need it.
Invite a council person to your house and invite a few of your neighbors to have that kind of discussion. On a small setting like that. It doesn't have to be when they're running, but during the time that they're in office, you don't have to be a certain person or have a certain size house to entertain a council person. Invite them to your house, invite a few of your neighbors, excuse me, and sit down and ask those questions. Some might be tough or some, and let them know how you feel. A lot of times they sit up there and they make decisions based on the reports they gotten from certain departments, and they really hadn't heard from the citizens and how they feel. And so they have to take what they feel and the information they got from the departments and make a decision. And your voice might sway that decision one way or another. So one person, one voice.
And James, and also observe how your council are doing council meetings. if they're asking questions in which their report was given to them prior to the city council meeting, you must realize they did not read the report. So just based upon the questions that are asked, you're given reports prior to the council meeting. And so listen to the questions that they ask, and that'll tell you whether they really paid attention. Have they really gotten involved in what's going on with the city of Portsmouth?
Yes, and that's important too. Being on several boards and commissions myself, I know it's a lot of material to read, but a lot of times, a lot of that material I would read, and I'll talk about the planning commission, was a lot of it was above, you know, what I understood, but I had to ask, you know, certain people that had that expertise explain this to me. So when I got up there, I didn't look like I didn't know what I was talking about. So and that's why it's important to have that cohesiveness, you know, not only between the council people, but with the city manager. And sometimes, and we've already seen a strain with the new city manager and some of the council people. So to me, that's not a good way to start as a city manager or the council. And whether it's the council people that are to blame or the city manager, either way, that's not a good way that's not a good relationship to have with city council members, because you both need each other. You both need each other, and at least professionally, you should show some kind of respect for each other, and at least make sure that your conversations are concerned about what's best for the citizens and the city of Portsmouth, and not how you personally feel. Because,
or you're in for personal gain.
Well, you're in there for personal gain.
Can't be in there for personal gain. City council is not the place to make money. But one thing you need to remember, if a city council person does not have a job, it makes them more vulnerable to do things that they would not normally do, because a lot of issues and a lot of situations are put before the council that many of the citizens don't know about. But it gives those council people an opportunity to say, well, you know, what can I gain from this? And it should not be about what they can gain from it, but what the citizens can gain from the relationships that are being formed. Yeah,
and I don't want to make sure we direct all of our conversation, what we're saying now, on the present council, or you know, because it's going to be a new makeup. You go back in history, it's always been a problem of people being on council and personal gain being something that they were more interested in. So this goes back. This is not something new. This is not something that we can just say this just happening.
James,
but when we see it
with the city, with the state, with the national,
all the way up to the top,
it's something,
but it's just something that we should be aware of. And I think that the people were aware of some things, and whether they're founded or unfounded, you know, the perception of the people that were voting was a way that they felt like, you know, we need to make a change. So it could happen. Same thing could happen to the next composition of the council. And that's why it's up to us as citizens to make sure that that you my little thing, be aware, be informed, and be involved at all times, and make sure that and those who are not aware, that's why we need groups like the MLK Junior Leadership Steering Committee and the Van Lefcoat Committee that tries to prepare potential candidates to serve, and with integrity, and being informative or informed, I should say, about the position they're about to take on. You know, sometimes it's not something that you learn on the job. You don't have time. Once you're sworn in, you have to jump right in. It's certain processes you have to learn, but you have to know what you're getting into.
Exactly.
And know what, main thing, know what the people expect from you, and try to achieve that through your votes and your actions.
And James, Karen Britt writes that voters need to look at candidates' resumes, their qualifications and or experiences, and what professional qualifications he or she will bring to the council. You know, because I mean, you got to be prepared to read budgets, look at plans. It is a lot serving on council, and you have to be prepared. You have to be ready to come in there with both feet on the ground. It's not going to be a learning experience. You need to come in ready to work. The work begins day one when you're on council.
Right, and you have to know where to go to get the answers, and not be afraid to go to get the answers. Raymond Turner told me a long time ago, after he had served on the council and we served on the planning commission together, he said to me one day, he said, people elect us to office and all of a sudden they think we smarter than what we are. We're the same person before we got elected. Then we got on council, and he admitted that, he said, they think I'm smarter than what I'm the same
That was Big
person.
Boy Turner.
But his point was that, they, once they get on council, they're still learning. They still have to know where to get the answers and have to be honest, and don't sit up there and think like they know everything all of a sudden. When before they got on council, they were, in his case, he worked in the shipyard, and that's no downplay, but he, all of a sudden is a politician. That didn't make him the smartest person in the world. That just made him electable. I mean,
and he knew, but he knew where to go to get the answers.
He knew where to go to get the answers, and if he didn't have them, he didn't try to fiddle around, and he just said, "Well, let me check on that."
Exactly.
And another point, and I'll say this: what also bothers me when people come before council, especially during the time they're about to vote. I don't see this too often, and I hope I see this going forward when people come up to deal with an issue and they have a good idea. I don't see a council say, "You know what? I never thought of that. Let me think. Let me think more about that. Maybe we should push this down the road and think more about it." But they'll sit there and listen, and the person makes a good point, and they just vote okay, and vote
and let it go.
totally against it, and don't even think about it. And sometimes as a citizen, I'm watching and say, "Oh, that citizen just made a good point. Maybe that should be looked at." So I'll be looking for things like that when citizens, and I encourage citizens, don't always wait to the end to make your comments and throw shots at the council, because, sometimes that goes unheard. It's at the end of the meeting. But, do that if you feel like you have to. And it's different now. It used to be where if you talked during the early part of the meeting, you couldn't talk
at the
end. It was restricted. Now you can do both. I always thought that was crazy. If someone wanted to talk about policy issues and then they wanted to talk at the end, they had to do one or the other.
Right.
So now that's been changed. So when they're voting and those issues come up in the beginning of the meeting, that's when you should be up there talking. That's when you should be up there asking questions. If you're sitting in the audience and you don't understand why this has come up or something, go up there and ask why.
Exactly.
And you'll get that from the city manager or one of the staff or either the elected officials. And that's what we miss out on, that opportunity and that right that we have to question or to give ideas about a certain issue or give your concern about something that might affect your community. And that passes over quick because everybody's waiting for the end. And you always see 25 people
at the end.
At the end, which I believe that's a right too that's should be cherished. But you see the same people up there in the beginning, and by that time the council is numb to those two people or those few people that come up there. But it's when other citizens come up there and question those policies,
And the thing is, you can get the agenda in advance and see what's coming up so that you know if there's something on that agenda that you would like to discuss.
Yes, and if you pull it off the internet, it's more detailed. What they give you when you're sitting in there is just a caption of whatever issue they're dealing with, but if you pull it up, the agenda, and on the internet, and you can get more of a detail of actually what that issue is about, and do that before you go down there before meetings, or even if you don't go, do that so you'll know exactly what's happening. And sometimes if you can't make it there, email your elected officials. you know.
And Angelina, Smoke Allen says it's important to stay focused on these last two meetings with the current council. There'll be a great deal of work that would need to be happen in January. So stay focused. Don't think that just because the new people have been elected, you still need to pay attention to what's happening with the current council. And Roderick, we look forward to hearing your voice. Believe me, Roderick Hawthorne, we need your voice in the city.
Yes, and I always say, especially new people that not not normally speak before council, not taking anything away from people that have been speaking before council for a long time. Uh, I think their voice is still important, but I think people, the council needs to see different faces up there, and diverse faces, so they can get an
Because
idea of
they
a wide range of the
yeah,
citizens coming
because
there.
they really get accustomed to having the same folks up
The
there.
same folks, like I
Sometimes you got
said,
to throw a little
they
something
become,
different in
they
there,
become, they actually become numb. I think if I was sitting up there and the same person came over and he gave good points,
Uh-huh.
when they call his name, my mind might even, excuse me, block him out.
Exactly.
But somebody knew, they said, oh, who is this? And then you never know how many people might feel the same way you do once you voice your opinion. So make sure going forward, the last two meetings and maybe next year when it starts out, if you want to start then with the new council, makeup of the council, start going down there. And if you don't speak, because you have a chance to speak, because the mayor will ask,
Yes.
is anybody, even if you're not signed up, if it's a public, I can't think of the
Public
word, but
hearing.
public hearing
Mm-hmm.
on the issue before they vote. It's always a public hearing before they vote on the issue. So if you're not signed up for that, you can say, okay, I want to say something about that, then you can
Roderick
go
is
up there and voice
asking,
your opinion.
he's asking, are there young citizens that are even speaking? You don't see a lot of young people coming up. I don't think I see a lot of young people truly paying attention to what's going on in the city to come before council to speak. And the council need to hear the voice of the young people, as well as the
I
more seasoned people in the community.
Right. I think some of the young people don't think that they'll be heard or their voice will be
Exactly.
heard. But I think if I was sitting up there, if I saw a lot of young people, I would really listen, because I would be seeing our future, and
Uh-huh.
I would really want to hear a young person's perspective and where they're coming from, because their ideas are going to be the kind that's going to keep up with the technology. It's going to
Exactly.
keep up with what direction we're going. And once all of us sit down, they're going to have to continue that. And
Uh-huh.
so we'll lay the groundwork, and they're going to have to continue. So young people, I would want to hear what they have to
Exactly.
say. And the more of them came up, the better. And I think maybe any council you have up there, you start seeing a lot of citizens coming up there on these public hearing situations where they're voting on
Mm-hmm.
how money is distributed,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's a city manager report and certain things, money she has to accept. And some of it's a slam dunk, but you have a right to go up there and question, okay,
Mm-hmm.
because some money that they get is earmarked for a certain project.
Mm-hmm.
But go up there and
Mm-hmm.
ask the question, so you'll know,
And as Pastor
so
says,
they'll know you're watching.
exactly. As Pastor says, get the city app because you'll get all the alerts as to what's going on with council. So make sure you get the city app so you'll know what's going on. But James, just as a sidebar conversation, the importance of bringing young people in, um, just in the alumni association, for instance, IC Norcom Alumni Association, we've had a lot of young people to join recently, right? And those young people are bringing such fantastic ideas, things that we seasoned people had not thought about.
Yeah.
But when you bring them in and you embrace their ideas, it takes you to the next level. And if we can get the young people to come and get involved in the city council and in the city government, they too can help to take the city to a new level.
Yeah, I think you're seeing the difference in the alumni association in the past. A lot of young people, when they saw alumni, the word alumni meant older to them,
Yes,
and they didn't think that they were involved. And I think give it to you, Leah, for opening it up and making sure they
they are
realize
amazing.
that
I-
it's open to, you just graduated last year, you're
Mhm.
alumni.
Yeah.
but you have to join the alumni association to be a part of the alumni association. But once you graduate, you're alum of IC Norcom, and your voice is needed and heard. So that should translate into the politics too, because a lot of those people join the alumni, they have some political opinions as well as aspirations.
And Roderick continues to write, that's the game changer. I think if younger people understood their power, then it would change the trajectory of the city's future. I agree. He's one of the young people who's moving me so fast with the Alumni Association, I don't get to sleep anymore. So
But that's important, I mean, as the alumni, you can use the alumni association as a model, as a model as far as how important it is to bring in the younger
it's
alums,
amazing.
and how much they have to offer.
And because
Just
James, they come with so many different experiences.
right,
Many of them have had experiences that we did not have the opportunity to experience.
right.
And so they bring all of those experiences in, and they've been places, they've done things, they've gone outside of the city, and they can bring ideas from all over and bring them back so we can merge these ideas and make them into something great.
And especially when they know the real history of IC
Exactly.
Markham, and the same thing about knowing the real history of the city of Portsmouth, and what some of the people have gone through over the years in order to make Portsmouth what it is, and even knowing some of the projects, and some people might look at it now and say, man, they haven't been doing anything for years, but there have been several ideas and big projects put before us, and there was a gateway, downtown gateway project that was
Yes.
when Dr. Patton was here, and big fanfare about it, and haven't heard a thing about it since.
And
A lot of money was spent on that study, and a lot of,
exactly.
and now it's gone by the wayside.
And the main thing young people need to be involved in, we need to get the jail from off the waterfront.
Yes.
The waterfront needs to be developed. We could make downtown Portsmouth could be an amazing place if they would just develop that downtown waterfront.
Yeah. And we've been talking about that so long
For
that
years.
people probably now don't even think it's going to happen. But that's a whole nother show as far as city council looking at people that want to come in and do that. It's a way to handle that. You bring them in, and then negotiate the deal in the best interest of Portsmouth. And then after they're in there, then you look for those little perks, that things that they can do in the community. Look at last week, we had the general manager from the casino.
Yes.
The deal was made, and everything, and they could have just stopped right there. Okay, we got the deal with the city. But even after the deal was made, they're still going out there now doing things in the community. And if you start demanding those things, and this is my opinion, you start demanding those things up front, because what these developers are looking for now is to get a foot into the city, and get a good contract, and of course the city wants a good contract, and then once they get in there and start going, then they can sit down and start listening and see what they can do, how they can be a good corporate citizen as
Exactly.
far as doing things in the community. And you're seeing, if you watch our last show, you're seeing a lot of things that they're doing and continue to do that it was no promises of that made up front. After they got in here, they decided, okay, let's go out here and do some things in the community. So you can't stifle these people in the beginning when they come to you for
Exactly.
proposals, even sometimes if they are unsolicited proposals, because people see something, and an unsolicited proposal is something where somebody just comes to the city and say, I looked at your downtown, this is what I mean, your waterfront, this is what I want to do, as opposed to putting out an RFP bid for people to bid on what you want to do down on. But sometimes people come with those unsolicited proposals, and it's not always a bad thing.
Exactly.
And if they come, then you can also open it up to other people. but don't put down. I've seen people put down unsolicited bid because they just figure the people, they just want to in it for the money. Of course, any developer is in it for the money.
In it for the money.
You know, but you have to look at the whole situation and see, okay, they're going to make money. How is it going to benefit the city of Portsmouth? And then once they get in there, then a lot of times they do things voluntarily in the community, or you can ask them to do things, and they're usually uh, acceptable to doing things in the community. But you can't knock them down because they're not gonna upfront say they're gonna support you or fund your ballpark. Yeah, that's not the way business works.
Exactly. Well, James, this
Okay.
has been an interesting morning, and we got some interesting comments coming from
Yes, we
those who are
appreciate
watching
the
on
comments
Facebook.
that people make, and we really encourage that comment, and if we have time, we'll add them to our show. We'll let people know what you're thinking, because this is what this show is all about: is sharing information to our listeners, the public, and basically hearing how you feel about certain things.
And
Uh,
James, at this time too, we should let them know if you have something interesting that you think that we need to bring to the table here on Portsmouth Coffee Talk, please let us know. Maybe we can have you on and you can talk about those issues that you have concerns about. So don't think that we just bring leaders and leadership on. We need to hear from you, the citizen. We need you to come on and share. So if you have an interesting topic that you would like to come on Portsmouth Coffee Talk and talk about, we have two shows, Monday mornings at 6:30 a.m. and again on Thursday evenings at 7 o'clock. Let us know and we'll see how we can work you into the schedule and get you on to share some of the great things that you have going on as well in the community.
Yeah, and we'll try to work this in, because now we're getting a lot of people that want to come on, but we'll try to work this in. I think it's important because we did one show where we had citizens on, and 4 citizens on to talk about a specific issue. So I think at least every 2 months or so, and maybe we can work this out, we'll have one of those shows where we invite citizens of the city of Portsmouth and just talk about an issue. And you'll get a chance to see how people are thinking, and we try to spread it out, have somebody from different areas of the city, and diverse citizens up here to share their opinions. And you don't always have to agree with us to be a part of this.
Exactly.
If you have some things that are totally against what we talk about up here, we really want you up here because we think it's important to share all opinions of our citizens here on Portsmouth Coffee Talk. So we're going to work on some things in the coming year to try to have more involvement with our citizens, along with bringing people on, our experts, our professionals and leaders on certain issues that we really need to bring on to explain some things. But we don't want to slight our audience and the everyday citizen who many times has some very good ideas on the direction of the city.
And don't just share it with us, share it with the citizens, share it with your city council. Let them know what your thoughts and ideas are, because you may bring something to the table that they have not even thought about. So young people, get down there and let your voice be heard for your Portsmouth City Council.
Okay, we want to thank everybody for watching. We had Reverend Pastor Blunt on from the Martin Luther King Leadership Steering Committee on earlier to talk about some things, and for half an hour. And then later on, Leah and I talked about some things. We don't always get a chance to express our feelings about certain things, but every once in a while we're glad to do that. And we're looking forward to when the Colonel will be back in town. I think don't think he'll be here Thursday.
No, I think he said
either,
not
but
be here Thursday.
He'll be here the next week. So we look forward to having him back and hearing his opinions on things. But Thursday we'll have Leah, we'll have
Roger Smith. He's going to talk about some of the great things he's doing with the girls basketball team at Manor High School. And A lot of his girls have gone on to get scholarships and gone on, I think, a few to go and play in the WNBA.
Yeah, we had a few to go pro.
Yeah, so
yes,
he's going to
indeed.
come on Thursday to talk about what great things he's doing with the girls basketball program at Manor High School. See, we're being fair, folks. I'm not just talking about Norcom High School.
Not
And
always
every
about
time I
Norcom
come
High
on, I talk about Norcom, but we're going to bring Manor on Thursday. And Roderick, I see you keep coming back. So we're going to get you to talk about this new band association being formed at Alumni Band Association being formed at Norcom. We're going to get you on to talk about that as well.
So is that he's forming something that's
Hmm?
it's not just for homecomings, it's just something
No,
that
they're forming a National Alumni Band Association encompassing all of the band members who've gone through Norcom High School.
oh wow,
It's a
that's
group that young folks, the young
yeah,
folks are coming in.
that's something like on the college level too, because
Oh,
they have
listen,
most of the college have that.
Karen says, well, Roger is a Norcom grad. Karen, I didn't want to bring that out. I was trying to do Manor for a change, but
Yeah,
he is a Norcom grad.
yes, indeed
So,
he is.
but
But
yeah, but yeah,
Roger, we appreciate you because I saw the when the band finishes and they march into the band room, and that gets a big crowd. A lot of those people that last at after the homecoming were alumni band members.
That's right.
And
That's
they
right.
were stepping high and turning and twisting, just as much as the young folks. So that's going to be a welcome addition to
All
the
I
IC
gotta say,
Norcom
folks,
family.
is put your gear on. 110, 110th year is next year, and you're gonna see some things that will amaze you on next year.
That's going to be another project for me. I think one of the projects is me getting some of the old historically Black school students together.
Yes, that's what
And
you're
another
doing.
one,
Yeah.
since you are organizing the band, maybe I can organize the orchestra members, dust off my cello and play one note. But anyway,
But
if
James,
there's any orchestra members out there,
I'm just kind of you kind of throwing me off here because you played basketball and you sat on the bench. You said you played in the orchestra and you only knew one note. Something is
no,
wrong with this
I
picture.
say I know one note now.
Oh, one note now. Okay,
When I
okay,
played
all
in the
right.
orchestra, I knew a lot of
Okay.
notes. I was second seat. I was second seat. Orchestra members will know how important those seats are. It was first, second, and things like that. I was second seat, but I learned how to sit because when you play the cello, you have to sit down to play the cello.
Exactly.
So that sort of transitioned me into sitting on the bench in basketball. I was
And
prepared.
to Mr. Marvin Childs in Atlanta, who says bring back vocational education. Pat says already said it. The school system is working on that now. They have some ideas of some vocational programs that they're going to bring back to the schools.
Yes, that's been a topic for a while, but I think the topic, the discussions about it now are really coming to we're seeing some action on that. Okay, Leah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
This has been a great morning, another great morning, and work begins now. So
yeah, Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our community. Oh, I'm sorry, our voice,
our community, and our
future.
Amen.
Yes, and we thank everybody for listening and watching today. And please share this and people that don't. This will be on our YouTube channel later on.
Oh, Dennis White has put some things on there. I think you all need to look at the page. Dennis White is a law enforcement officer. He is from the Portsmouth community as well, who's now living in Detroit.
Oh, okay.
So I think you all need to read some of Dennis's comments as well.
Right. And shout out to TNT Bailey. Saw her out there before in person a few times, and I saw her out there at the when we were lining up for the parade. And she's involved with her community, Brighton Prentice Park Civic League, and kudos to her, Norcom grad.
Yes, yes.
TNT Bailey.
TNT Bailey. TNT,
and I have to
look at my toes.
Have to look at those comments by
Dennis White.
Dennis White.
Yes.
Okay, I must have missed that. But anyway, thanks again, everybody. We appreciate it, and have a great day. And we'll see you Thursday evening at 7 o'clock when we have Roger Smith, coach of the girls basketball team at at Manor High School.
And Dennis White, your plan at Craddock does not help us any at Norcom. Thank you very much. You and Benet over can get together and form your own group for Craddock, okay?
Yeah, Benet is a Greyhound.
She's officially a Greyhound now.
She's an honorary Greyhound now, slash Admiral.
How about
Admiral
that?
slash Greyhound.
So thank you all. Thank you all so very much.
Thanks, everybody.
We
Take
look
care.
forward to you all listening in again on Thursday. And don't forget that this will be on YouTube at the end of today. We ask you to go on Portsmouth Coffee Talks page, subscribe and share. And you can look at all the videos from our previous Coffee Talk moments on YouTube.
And please subscribe or let other people know about our page, our YouTube channel. We really need to get those prescriptions up there. The prescriptions are moving slow. People are going on there and watch, but they don't necessarily subscribe. And you don't know how many ways it helps if you have those subscription numbers really high. You can do a lot of things as far as advertising and and getting certain people to come on your show because they'll look at those numbers and say, okay, I really need to express myself on that show because they have a lot of people watching. But please just help us out there and also watch on our live shows as well.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you so very much. And everybody have a blessed and safe day.
Yep, and week. Take care.
And week. You're right. And week.